It's time for another episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas, the podcast covering the intersection of business, culture, entrepreneurship, and life in general here in the Ozarks. Whether you are considering a move to this area or trying to learn more about the place you call home, we've got something special for you. Here's our host, Randy Wilburn.
Hey folks, and welcome to another episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas. I am your host, Randy Wilburn, and listen, I've got a show for you today. I am here with Reed Kumbelek from Komodo, the restaurant. It's an Asian restaurant right up here in Rogers, right off of the highway. I've seen it a number of times, and I wasn't really familiar with it until Reed's wife reached out to me a couple of days ago, and you know, she had heard about the podcast, and she was very proud of what these guys have created here. And I said, you know, I need to check these guys out. And I did not know the history behind this restaurant and specifically behind Reed. And so I just figured I had to get these guys on the podcast so they could tell their story and share with the rest of Northwest Arkansas why they're here in this part of the country, why they started this restaurant, and what they're trying to do with Asian-influenced and Asian-inspired cuisine here in Northwest Arkansas. So without further ado, Reed, it's great to have you on the podcast. Thank you so much for seeing me.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So Reed, why don't you just give a little bit of your background and how you ended up here in Northwest Arkansas?
Sure. I was born and raised in Northern California, sort of the San Francisco Bay Area. I actually was born in a town a few hours east of the Bay Area, but after high school sort of immediately moved to the Bay, and just, you know, sort of started waiting tables sort of as a means to an end. I didn't plan on doing that professionally, but just thought I would do that while I went to school and until I figured something else out, but was actually pretty good at it and sort of worked my way up through the ranks. Worked for some really great restaurants out there in the Bay Area, and you know, met my wife there in California, and we lived there in the city for about 10 years after high school before we decided to move out to the Midwest. So some of the restaurants that I worked out there were the big one was a Slanted Door that obviously this restaurant got a lot of its inspiration from.
Right. And for those, I mean, not to cut you off, but for those of you that don't know about the Slanted Door, if you ever go to the Bay Area, specifically to San Francisco, and you want some really good Asian food, specifically Vietnamese food, the Slanted Door is probably it doesn't get any better than that. Yeah. And I got a little excited when I spoke with Reed's wife the other day, and we talked, and because she told me about the Slanted Door, and because I used to live in the Bay Area and it's a restaurant I know, I was really excited to hear about that because it's like somebody with that type of understanding and influence of the what goes into that type of cuisine. Sure. They must be doing something comparable to that, hopefully, right?
Absolutely.
And so that was my thought. So I said, you know, I'm gonna have to learn more and find out what's going on.
Sure. Their whole concept is essentially they take classic Vietnamese dishes and they use really good, oftentimes locally sourced, organic ingredients, and they take no shortcuts. Yeah. I mean, they use, you know, they just use the best possible ingredients they can find. Like their bar as well, they have a full bar. All their stuff is handcrafted cocktails, like a really nice long wine list, and it's obviously a wonderful location. It's in the Ferry Building right on the water. And yeah, I mean, it takes 8 to 12 weeks to get a reservation there. I mean, it's a James Beard award-winning restaurant. Yeah. I mean, it's just every day, just crazy packed, and they just do it consistent. They're very consistent, and I mean, it's the best Asian food I've ever eaten. I mean, it's just an amazing restaurant group for sure, and some of the best people I've ever worked for. So
yeah, okay, all right. So I just wanted to set the table for
Sure.
everyone, no pun intended.
Sure.
Just to give them an idea of the genesis, because actually, you're your own man.
Sure.
You had your own ideas about what went into a great restaurant, and as
Sure.
you said, you had a chance to wait tables
Yep.
and work in a lot of different environments where you were able to come up with a lot of ideas, which
Sure.
I'm sure are reflected here at Komodo.
Absolutely.
And so you were in the Bay Area. You guys are from that place, and then all of a sudden you just woke up one day and said, you know what? I think we're going to go to
NWA.
NWA.
Right. Not exactly. We first moved to Kansas City due to a job. Well, first of all, California is a wonderful place. I lived there my whole life.
Yeah.
It's wildly expensive. It's very tough to, as if you're not in the tech industry or, I don't know, a lotto winner.
Right.
Or, I mean, it's so expensive, and
Yeah.
it's, I lived like, 15 miles from work, and it took me an hour and a half to get there every day.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just, it gets a little old. And we, decided that we just wanted something different. We wanted to we wanted to try the Midwest. We had visited Kansas City a few times, and I just kind of thought, if I find some work out there, if I find a good job out there, let's try it.
Right.
And I ended up working for the Marriott out in Kansas City at this 1,000-room hotel, huge, and they had, I think, 6 different food and beverage outlets that I oversaw. We lived and worked, and I worked there for a few years, and it was then that we would travel down here occasionally to visit Northwest Arkansas, because my wife has some friends and family down here, and that's when we really started to put, like NWA and think about moving there.
Yeah.
Just the food scene here has just been evolving a lot, and tremendous growth, and just saw a lot of opportunity down here.
Absolutely.
And so, in the back, we've always been kind of had opening a restaurant as an end game, and so thought that Northwest Arkansas would definitely be, like, if we were going to do it, a place that we could do it.
Yeah.
And so about 2 years ago, we moved down here, and I worked for some local restaurants here, Rope Swing being one of them. So another great local restaurant group. They've got like Preacher Son, Press Room, The Holler. Just great group of people. And I actually was very transparent about this project, and they were very... what's the word?
Open?
Yeah, and supportive.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, no,
they
that's
were,
fine.
They were very happy.
Did that surprise you?
Yeah, it did. Just because, being in the industry so long, you people, when they say I want to do my own thing, they get very like, oh, you're going to be my competitor.
Right.
And, like, there's this animosity, and like with them, like their whole thing is, to create a better Northwest Arkansas.
Absolutely.
And that's their whole philosophy. So
Yeah.
they were like, we're happy for you. I mean, they've been very supportive and have helped me quite a bit through this thing. Like, I'll call them because they definitely know what they're doing. And so I worked there for a while, met some local business owners here that have been wanting to get into the food industry, and through some franchises, or they just wanted to get into it. And and they happened to be the friends and family I was talking about that my wife knew. And I just, one day pitched them this idea. I'm like, man, this area needs a really nice, higher end, scratch kitchen Asian restaurant, sort of similar to the one I worked at in San Francisco. And I kind of, explained to them, this is the slanted door, this is what the food's like, this is, the setting it would be in, very modern, full bar, handcrafted cocktails, really nice wine list, great ingredients. And they're like, yeah, are you going to cook this food? I'm like, I said, no, I've got this chef that I worked with out there and he actually, at the time, had just returned to the States. He left for a few years to go live in Shanghai, China.
Wow.
To open some restaurants, and him and I had kept in contact when I had left Slanted Door, and I knew he was back in San Francisco working at another Asian restaurant called E&O Kitchen. Another
I know it.
pretty great Asian restaurant there, and I just called him out of the blue and was like, hear me out. Like, I got an idea. I want to open this restaurant in Northwest Arkansas, and I want it to be like Slanted Door, and I want you to be my chef. And he's like, yeah, sure. Like, I'll get right on that.
Right.
And so we had just, talked about it, and the business partners and I flew out to San Francisco to meet him and eat at the Slanted Door and kind of talk more about the concept. And
it's probably when he realized you were serious.
yeah, it was the real deal. And then he flew out here to check it out. He loves fishing and the outdoors, and so this was right up his alley. I mean, he fit right in here. And flew him out to visit, showed him the space we were interested in, where we're at now. We had originally looked in downtown Bentonville, but just really couldn't find a space. And the Pinnacle area of Rogers was sort of another great option that we had. And so when this space became available, I had showed Ryan the space, and I think it was not but a few months later he moved out here.
Yeah, that's great.
And we got the lease and kind of finalized everything, and the rest is history. We opened the doors in July of 2018, so haven't been quite open a year now. So,
but from my research, the little bit of research that I've been able to do, you guys have not let any grass grow under your feet. So just for the listening audience, these guys have they were given one of the NWA's best new restaurants, right?
Yes.
And best Asian restaurant.
That's right.
So best of NWA, best new restaurant, and best Asian restaurant. So
that was an honor. We were really happy when we found that out. I mean, that was great that they voted for us for that.
Yeah. No, I thought that was exciting, and I also had a chance to read a lot of the reviews that people have put out there about you guys. The social proof that everybody looks for, right? Whether
Absolutely.
They go to Yelp or they go to Google or they just look online to see what's going on. Besides all the great photographs of all the amazing food that you guys have, and I do want to come to your selection of food in a second. But I just think it's important to recognize that in a very short period of time, you've made a mark here in Northwest Arkansas.
For sure.
Did you expect it to be welcomed that way?
I was cautiously optimistic. I thought it was. I obviously stand behind our food. I think it's and my chef. So I knew it would be well received, just because the food is so good and it's unique. And I really can't say there's anything else like it around here. So yeah, I mean, I don't want to be presumptuous or say that of course we knew,
right.
But I mean, you never know.
Yeah.
But
you had a good feeling.
Yeah, we did. We did. Just it's really good food, and it's simple. It's very honest.
Yeah.
There's no ultra complex flavors with our cuisine. It's very simple ingredients, and we actually do some cooking. Right now we're doing a cooking class.
I heard about that.
Yeah,
I heard about that.
It's knowing your Asian ingredients.
Okay.
And this, we started doing cooking classes when we first opened, just as sort of something fun, just something different to kind of introduce the region to our chef. And it's just gone over really well. I mean, every time we put them on our Facebook, they sell out within just a few days.
Okay.
And so they've just been really good. And essentially what it is it's a 4-course meal with demos that have wine pairing with each course. So, we'll serve the first course, and the chef will kind of say, this is how you would make it at home. These are the ingredients you would need. And this is the wine we're going to drink with it, and this is why it pairs well. And the one we're doing right now is knowing your Asian ingredients. And he talks about like the base of most Asian dishes,
Right.
like the spices, the sauces, the herbs, and things that go into the vast majority of our dishes here at Komodo. And people have really appreciated that, and so those have gone over really well. And
Now, can you find out about those demonstrations and the cooking class just on your Facebook page, or is it also on the website?
So we both. So
Okay.
we have on our web. If you go to our website, you can sign up to get on our mailing list, and we send out usually a couple times a month all of our upcoming events, and we do a lot of them. I mean, we do cooking classes. We do we just did a bourbon tasting where we did a 4-course meal with bourbon cocktail pairings. On Cinco de Mayo, we're doing a tequila one.
Because bourbon and tequila go with everything.
Oh, for sure. I mean, and so you can sign up that way to find out, or
Okay.
you follow us on Facebook, and that's where all of our events are as well. So.
Okay. Well, yeah, we will be sure to put, for all of our listening audience, on our show notes, links to all of the stuff that we're talking about today and that Reed is sharing with us. Because I think people, I'm actually excited to come up here and try out one of the 4-course programs, because I definitely would like to know what I need to do with my Chinese 5 spices.
Sure.
And have a better understanding of how you introduce that
Sure.
to food and not just pour it over everything and think that you've done something good. So
For sure.
yeah.
We've gotten some great support, and have we just opened up our patio. We've got a huge patio, covered patio outside where we do happy hour, and we're
in a private room here, just so people can understand this. It's a private room. It's actually got its own mini split air conditioner in here for comfort. It's got sliding doors, so if you wanted to have a meeting, you could come here and eat. I mean, the place is set up phenomenally well.
Thank you. The space is huge. I mean, it's almost 6,000 square feet. And one of the things I wanted to provide is a large private area for people if they wanted to do, corporate events, birthdays, wedding receptions, anniversaries. But I also wanted to have the ability, if we needed it, on the weekends and such, to be able to utilize that same space as just additional dining. Mm-hmm. And so that's where our architect, his name is Dave Burris, came up with the idea of these sliding glass doors that are frosted.
Yep.
And you essentially can open them up and it's just more dining space. But if you have a private event, you can close them and you kind of just like build a private room. So we can seat up to 60 or have 3 individual spaces in here. And so, during the holidays especially, we have a lot of host a lot of events in here.
That's good.
Yeah.
So what's the wait time like on a Friday or Saturday? Anybody coming up here, they listen to the podcast and they want to come up here on a Saturday night. What's the wait time like?
It totally depends on what time you're coming in. Like if you come in early, before 6, we can get you right in.
Right.
If you come late, like after 8, we can get you right in. But if you're coming between 6:30 to 7:30,
that sweet spot,
I would we're on Open Table.
Okay.
So I would recommend making a reservation just so that we can make sure we have a space for you. But and we're so big here that if when we do go on waits, it's only 15 to 25 minutes. We don't have these like massive wait times.
Right. No, that's cool. That's cool. Well, I just want people to know, and I would imagine that you guys are open on Sunday, right?
Yes,
we're so you probably get a lot of nice traffic after Cross Church finishes out on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, we do. We do.
Yeah.
We actually do a brunch on Saturday and Sunday.
Okay.
We serve lunch, but we also offer some brunch specials. not a ton of them. And so on Saturday and Sunday from 11 to 2:30, we do some brunch specials.
So tell me just a little bit about your menu. I saw one item that it looked like Brussels sprouts.
Yep.
Yeah, and those looked amazing.
Yeah, those.
Is that one of your signature dishes?
It is. Our menu changes seasonally.
Okay,
So
all right.
You'll see things like Brussels sprouts, kale on the menu now. Getting ready to get off of the menu because we're coming into spring, but those are, primarily winter vegetables. And we change that seasonally.
Okay.
We've also got a dim sum menu.
Okay.
Where we've got some dumplings, some pot stickers, some crab rangoon, some chicken wings, just a number of, wontons, dumplings that we make in house.
Right.
And they're just really those have been pretty popular. People like our dim sum for sure.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure, I'm not totally sure, so I might be speaking out of turn, but not a lot of places around here do dim sum.
No. And that's, it's so funny. I mean, again, there are a lot of our listeners of this podcast that are lifelong residents of NWA. But there are a lot of transplants. And of course, with all the people that come in from the vendor community, for Walmart and what have you, that are used to experiences in other places, those individuals certainly have an appetite for a wider range of Asian influenced offerings.
Yeah.
And I know my wife and I, when we came here 5 years ago, we were looking around like, oh my God, where is this? Where is that? And we found great places. Don't get me wrong. There are a lot of like little hole in the wall places that are actually really good. But then when you find out about a scratch kitchen like yours, which, just so people understand, I mean, you're everything that you're making is fresh.
Yes.
You don't play games with that. I mean, it's there's nothing coming out of boxes or anything like that. I mean, so when you eat the food here or any restaurant that has a scratch kitchen, it doesn't have to necessarily be an Asian restaurant. The taste is going to be different. It's like you're sitting down and having dinner with your mom.
Yes, absolutely. Like something as simple as our pho on our lunch menu. Our chef, we have a big 20-gallon steam kettle where he, from scratch, makes our broth with, we do beef and chicken, but I mean, it takes him 2 days, where he puts all the herbs and spices and bones and to our egg, something simple like an egg roll. We make it all ourselves, and something like our fried rice. We're not using any frozen vegetables. We're not. All of our sauces we're making ourselves. Behind our bar, we don't use any mixers. We don't use any sweeteners. We squeeze all of our own juices. Like anytime we sweeten a cocktail, we use a locally sourced honey, or a simple syrup that we've made ourselves.
Wow.
So we really go for quality here.
Right.
And I think that people can tell. You can. It's different.
Right.
It's probably it's definitely different for the area. So.
And I think your menu's priced perfectly for the type of offering that you have. And I think certainly anyone looking at it would say, wow, these are some really good prices on here for the quality of food that you're offering. So.
And we also, what's a little different about our menu than ones that are typical is our food is meant to be served, Asian food in itself is meant to be served family style.
Absolutely.
So it's different than, you and I are having dinner, I eat this, you eat that. No, we'll probably order, a couple of entrees, a side of vegetables, and we'll share. So that way we get to try, different things on the menu. So, and our portion sizes are large.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's good. Well, yeah, I know. I guess the only thing missing, and I love this wood table here, is how in San Francisco most of the restaurants have those rotating lazy Susans that are just sitting there in the middle of the table to move stuff around so that everybody gets to taste everything. But certainly the way things are set up here, and I mean, I love the whole layout and the feel and the aesthetic of your restaurant. It's just really, really nice. So you guys did an amazing job.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we our architect used this interior designer. Her name is Sarah Pennington, and she just, exceeded our expectations. Like this table here that we're sitting at is a solid slab of walnut from a tree that was sourced here locally. And the folks that helped us with that were with the woodwork specifically was American Estates.
Okay.
They're out of Springdale.
Okay.
And so we really wanted to use local, support local businesses, from the build out to our food to, a lot of our ingredients, not all, because there's certain things you can't find here in Northwest Arkansas.
Right.
We try to source locally. Okay. So
have you sourced any local mushrooms? I'm curious yet.
No, not yet.
Because there's a big mushroom following here in Northwest Arkansas. So.
I've heard. Currently we don't get any of our mushrooms locally. We get our pork, our chicken.
Yes, Tyson's right down the road.
Some of our, like all of our honey for some of our sauces.
Right.
And there's a whole bunch of other stuff. I mean, I just can't think off the top of my head. Obviously, there's a bunch of stuff that we just can't get locally.
Yeah.
I always joke with people when I see
seafood.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
I always joke with people. I'm like, this shrimp dish, or local shrimp, and they're like, just kidding.
Yeah, exactly. We've got a shrimp farm in the back.
Exactly. So. We love the space and it, and they just did a great job with it, and especially people who have eaten here before.
Yep.
When it was the pizza place. Mm-hmm. I mean, it is just. There's not a square inch that we didn't touch.
Yeah.
I mean, it is completely transformed.
Different.
And people are. I always know that someone had been here before when they walk in and they look straight up because they're looking for the Volkswagen that was on the entrance. That's no longer there. So.
Yeah. And for those that are listening, the building that they're in was where the Mellow Mushroom was. Correct. In Rogers, directly across from like Megabytes, right there at the exit where Cross Church is. So, I mean, your restaurant couldn't be better situated from a location standpoint.
Absolutely. So, great visibility, easy access from the highway.
Yeah.
If you're coming from Fayetteville or even the other direction, it's super easy to get to. Lots of traffic.
Okay.
So
that's awesome. Well, you've shared so much, and I know that there's a lot more of this story to tell, and I just want to encourage the listeners that you need to get up here and hear the other part of this story by tasting some of the food, and checking Komodo out and seeing what Reed and his wife, and what is the chef's name again?
His name is Ryan Brown.
Ryan Brown.
Yes.
And what Reed and his wife and Ryan have put together here in Rogers is nothing short of phenomenal when it comes to an Asian kitchen that really is true to the roots of Asian cooking and cuisine. Sure. And so we really appreciate you just taking time to share with the I Am Northwest Arkansas audience. And I hope that all of Northwest Arkansas comes up here and checks you guys out and sees why you were named one of the best new restaurants and best Asian restaurants here in Northwest Arkansas. I know they don't give those awards away just all willy-nilly, so that's a good thing. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. Do you have any last bit of information that you'd like to share with our audience about the restaurant and maybe what you hope the future holds for you guys?
Sure. We obviously we have a website. It's Komodo NWA.com. We're also on Facebook and Instagram. We just hope to continue to evolve and to serve the community. And, we, through this journey, have just met some amazing people who have supported us and have got some regular customers that just, because our food is a bit of addicting, And
so you got some regulars is what you're
saying. We do, who are just great people. And this community at large is just great, how they talk to one another, and a lot of our customers that come in will always say, not always, but oftentimes will say, "Oh, my neighbor told us we had to come here,"
right.
and so from the marketing perspective, they do it. Our customers they do it for us, and that's just, it's an honor to be in such a great community. So we're not going anywhere. We love it here, and
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Reed, I really appreciate you taking the time today just to kind of open up and share with us a little bit about what you are doing here, your experience coming to Northwest Arkansas, the fact that people just welcomed you with open arms, and you and your wife are not looking back as far as where you guys are headed with this company and with this restaurant, and who knows what's going to come next. So,
for sure.
Yeah, so that's exciting. So, folks, when you get a chance and you're up in Rogers, pull off a 49 and come check out Komodo. The restaurant is right there, right across from Cross Church on the same side of the street. You can't miss it, and it's easy to find. Their website is komodonwa.com. Everything that we mentioned on this episode, we will share in the show notes, so that way you have that information and a link to their Facebook page and everything else, so that you can take advantage of it. Real quick, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Okay.
You are a restaurateur. We know this is your favorite restaurant.
Sure.
But when you're not eating Asian food,
okay,
where do you go?
Oh man, that's a tough one.
Put you on the spot.
There's a lot of great restaurants here.
I mean, I know.
I really like what they're doing at the Preacher's Son.
Okay.
I love eating there.
Okay.
Chef Matt Cooper does a great job there. It's also totally gluten-free.
Yeah. Oh, okay. You know what? Speaking of gluten-free, just as you hold that thought for a second, for people with gluten-sensitive diets, are you able to offer them some options?
We are. Our menu, I would say almost over half of it can be made gluten-free. We annotate all of our menu items with a little GF or V. To where it can be made gluten-free or vegetarian. So in those instances, we would either substitute it if it was soy-based with a tamari, which is a gluten-free soy sauce, or it's just not a soy-based dish. It just has like fish sauce or something else that has a salt component, in which case it's just naturally gluten-free. So we can absolutely accommodate folks with celiacs or any other, gluten intolerance. So
okay, all right, cool. All right, well, I appreciate it. I just wanted folks to know. I wanted to know because I'm not gluten insensitive, or sensitive rather, but I've been gluten free for a while, so
sure.
It's kind of a good thing. So.
It's for sure becoming more common.
Exactly
for people to avoid that. So I like eating there.
You said Preacher's Son. So,
yeah, that's a great restaurant.
Have you been to the Leverett Lounge yet?
I have, somebody else just recommended that I go there. It's down in Fayetteville, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah, and it has been, out of all of my guests, I'd say 2/3 of all the guests have said the Leverett Lounge is one of their favorite places to go.
I've heard. I just had a customer in here last week that told me, because I was getting ready to go have a date night with my wife, and he was like, "You got to check the Leverett Lounge out," and we actually didn't end up going, but. It's definitely on my list. I want to go check it out for sure.
And then, have you been to the 8th Street Market up there in Bentonville?
Yep. Yayo's.
Yayo's is
awesome.
Okay.
I've been eating since I always go to their food truck in Bentonville. Right. They're great. The Holler's great. A lot of good restaurants. Fiamma, awesome. Table Mesa,
yeah.
Tavola, great restaurants.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, that's the one thing, and I tell people all the time. And again, part of the reason why we created this podcast is because we wanted to also give people that were thinking about relocating here a glimpse of what is
for sure,
right? And so, I mean, you came here and you just went all in,
right?
Of course, and then just showed everybody up by just creating this great restaurant. But no, and seriously, I mean, it's just this idea that there's so many great places here,
absolutely,
in NWA, and you're part of that now, which is very cool. So we certainly appreciate that, and we don't want NWA to be the best kept secret. I mean, it is.
It is.
It's. I mean, it's anywhere, depending on who you ask, it's anywhere between 36 and 50 people a day are relocating.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of folks, and we were just named again to U.S. News and World Report's top places to live.
Oh, really?
Well, Fayetteville was, and that's part of the greater area, And I always like to say that when they're talking about any one of these towns, they're talking about the four of them from a cumulative perspective. So from Bentonville down to Fayetteville, and everything in between.
Yeah.
And
It's a
Rogers
great
and
place.
Springdale are in between, so it's all one big sandwich.
There's really nothing like it. I mean, it's got that like smaller town feel, but like, you know, there's still a lot going on.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it's great. And
Yeah.
we really like it.
Oh,
So,
that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I personally am glad you're here, and
Thank you.
we in Northwest Arkansas are glad that you're here and bringing this type of Asian influenced and inspired kitchen to Northwest Arkansas for everybody to enjoy. So, folks, we really appreciate having Reed on the show today, and we certainly want to show him some love by coming out and supporting his restaurant as he continues to grow and what they do here at Komodo. So check out Komodo, and again, KomodoNWA.com is the website. If you're coming on a Friday or Saturday night and you're coming at the peak hours, you definitely might want to make a reservation.
Absolutely.
Outside of that, you might be okay. And we'd love to get some comments from you and let us know what you think about the food by responding back on our website and letting us know what you thought about checking out Komodo. So that's it. So Reed, thank you so much for being on the show. And
Thanks for having
we'll probably
me.
have to come back again, and we'll find another excuse to get up here
Sure.
and come hang out with you and hear your current exploits and see what's happening. So
sure.
who knows? Maybe there's another restaurant in the future for
Who
you guys.
knows?
So that would be cool. But thank you so much for everything.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Well, there you have it, folks. Reed Kumbelik from Komodo. We really are glad that we came up here and made the time in our schedule to connect and learn a little bit more about what Reed and his colleagues are doing here with this great restaurant. So I'm your host, Randy Wilburn. I really appreciate you taking time to listen to this podcast. I'd actually like to ask you to do a couple of things for me. One, if you really like this podcast, I would love for you to consider writing a review wherever you listen to this podcast. So if it's on Apple Podcasts, if it's on Google Play, if it's on Spotify, wherever you listen to this podcast, if you could leave a review, we'd really appreciate it. Secondly, please share with somebody else. Sharing is caring, and we love to gain new listeners. So we can only do that by virtue of the people that are actually listening to this podcast. So please, we've been blown away by the response for this podcast, and it's still in its infancy, and we're going to continue to grow and bring great episodes to you on a regular basis, just like this one that we did with Reed. So we appreciate you spreading the word and letting people know. And remember, you can always check us out at IamNorthwestArkansas.com for anything that you want to know about what we're doing. Our Facebook page, we have a Facebook page and a Facebook community for I Am Northwest Arkansas, and you can find out about events that are happening in and around NWA. So we want you to just get to be a part of our ecosystem and everything that we're doing here at NWA. We love this place so much. That's why we created the podcast in the first place. So that's all for now. Again, I'm your host, Randy Wilburn, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye for now.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas. Check us out each and every week, available anywhere that great podcasts can be found. For show notes or more information on becoming a guest, visit IamNorthwestArkansas.com. We'll see you next week on I Am Northwest Arkansas.